Mr. Lynch, in your written testimony, I want to read something, and I quote, as HRSA was directing the OPTN to conduct the review of KYDA practices, an industry trade group, the Association of Oregon Procurement Organizations, publicized an open letter characterizing the ongoing effort to improve patient safety through enhanced oversight as a misinformation conspiracy campaign and concluded it is time for it to stop. And it was signed by more than 20 of the UNO staff. Would that letter constitute an attempt to obstruct HRSA's investigation?
The legal definition of obstruct, I don't believe I would be the
I'm not talking about a legal definition.
It was concerning to HRSA that numerous high-ranking members of the contractor and members of the OPTN board did sign that. And in the review committee that we directed the OPTN to undertake, we asked that nobody who was a signer to that be a part.
But basically, they were saying there's nothing to be seen here.
That's correct.
Okay, but that's not the first time you've had issues. Your written testimony also notes that historically HRSA did not receive complete, consistent, and at times accurate information regarding patient safety and complaints and concerns raised by the OPTN members and other stakeholders. So if there's any consistency here, it's a consistency in trying to shield what they were actually doing.
So one of the problems with having a single contractor environment is that if it's responsible for devising the policies, anything that's happening that's out of compliance with the policies could be seen as a failure of that first process.
But what I'm not trying to necessarily throw people under the bus, because I'm an organ donor. It's on my driver's license, and I realize the consequence of this. We had a lot of discussions about this before we ever had the hearing, but at the same time, we've got a responsibility to make sure that people know that this process will be conducted humanely, that it will be conducted legally, and that the people who are doing it have at the very minimal the best interest of the individual donor and the families that are involved. And from your own written testimony and from the report from HRSA, I mean, there's multiple instances here where it appears that they were, I use the word obstruct, but clearly impeding an effort to expose some major problems, particularly in Kentucky.
We have a plan which is already in place to prevent that in the future, which includes making sure that.
I understand, but what I'm trying to say is that we're trying to conduct an oversight hearing to come up with some solutions, which I think your efforts are excellent from what I've read, and that's exactly what you're trying to do. But I think there's got to be some accountability. There were clearly some things that happened that I think could constitute euthanasia. I mean, if the patient's dying, but they take the patient's organs before they die, that's euthanasia.
When we identify conduct that we find is at odds with the OPTN contractor's duty, we have notified them of the expectation to perform better.
Well, again, we had this discussion before we had this hearing, we want to make sure that the American public knows that if they are willing to become an organ donor, they're going to be treated humanely and legally, and that the family's wishes will be respected, and that you're not going to have these horrible situations like we've seen here in Kentucky and some other places, frankly. And my main concern is that you're able to do your oversight function without interference from anyone. I really am disappointed that 20 people signed this letter, which to me constitutes obstruction of a legitimate investigation, which the investigation uncovered some serious problems. And I just want to know if there's any consequences that anyone will be held responsible for how they conducted this. And going on reading through your testimony, there are other examples where you weren't given accurate information. I won't say that it was fraudulent, but it was clearly intended to not reach the conclusion that you needed to reach.
So when we identify a deficiency, we do communicate that in the contracting manner.
But what are the consequences?
As a non-contracting expert, there is a stepwise progression in noting a government contractor's ability to perform its functions effectively. The consequence that is within my direct scope is that we do not take these things on faith. We are trying to make sure that this is something that the government has the accountability. We have now the resources to get this done, so we double check the work.
My time has expired, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
The gentleman yields.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank the witnesses for being here. Mr. Massa, why were all the materials requested by the Network of Hope for the OPTN Membership and Professional Standards Committee in the letter of September 12, 2024 not originally provided?
Thank you for that question, sir. Initially, that request was...
Why were they not provided? We're not going to filibuster the time. Why were they not provided?
That request was in regards to Mr. Hoover being a brain-dead donor as well as organs being recovered. So we provided the information that those were inaccurate. In addition, they asked for a summary, which we provided.
Mr. Formica, your written testimony, you said that few recommendations that OPTN made are in essence the same as the concerns expressed by HRSA in their report. In your honest assessment, do you really believe that OPTN and HRSA's findings were the same?
I do, in that the concept of developing better protocols to identify who is a suitable donor.
Well, how do you justify closing the case only 2 business days after receiving Network for Hope's response despite not receiving patient-level materials or administrative documents requested?
Oh, Congressman, I'm not justifying that. That was through the MPSC. That should not have happened. I was referring to the larger investigation that we did afterwards.
But in your written testimony, you also note that the UNO staff, as the HRSA contractor supporting the OPTN, assisted OPTN's MPSC volunteers in their review. How did UNOS assist the MPSC in its review?
I'm not familiar with that in my written testimony.
Well, the reason I'm asking these questions is in Mr. Lynch's testimony, he points out that the Association of Organ Procurement Organizations publicized an open letter characterizing the ongoing effort to improve patient safety through enhanced oversight as a misinformation conspiracy campaign and concluded it is time to stop. Among the signatories to this letter were more than 20 UNO staff signing with their corporate affiliation. Dr. McBride, did you sign that letter?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Congressman, let me start off by saying that I disagree with the way that letter has been characterized.
Well, it's been characterized by HRSA this way, and it creates some serious concerns on our behalf.
I'm happy
Dr.
to share.
Formica, did you sign that letter?
I did not.
You did not, and you're president of the UNOS board?
No, I was president
No,
of the
you're
OPTN.
president of OPTN. You didn't sign it. How about you, Dr. McGee?
I did not see it, sign it or see it.
Okay, Dr. McBride, continuing in your response, why did you and 20 other UNO staff sign that letter? It appears to me to be obstruction of an inquiry.
Congressman, I respectfully disagree with that assessment. I'm happy to provide the letter to this committee. What I believe it asked for was an open dialogue between members of Congress, experts within the OPTN, and HRSA to get to the
But
bottom
the letter
of the
calls it a
situation.
misinformation conspiracy campaign.
The letter referred to allegations that were hearsay.
And you
did
called
not.
it, you called for it to stop.
I called for hearsay to stop, and I called for, the letter called for an open dialogue between
So you're
Congress.
saying that the allegations that have been made in regard to attempt to procure organs from living donors is hearsay?
The letter referred to the testimony at the hearing last September.
I'm asking you, are you saying that the attempt to procure organs from a living donor is hearsay, that didn't happen?
No, I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm saying that the letter called for a stop to unfounded allegations, and UNOS has always supported full, open, and fully transparent investigations, and that has always been our position.
You've created a situation here that I'm very concerned about, and we discussed this at length before this hearing about how this is going to impact the general public's decisions on whether or not to donate their organs. And I'm not satisfied with what I've heard in the hearings thus far today. I think this is extremely serious. I think there needs to be some serious reform. I thank the chairman for holding the hearing, but I just want to be very sensitive about the signals that this sends and the fact, and I disagree with you. I think you intended to influence the outcome of HRSA's research. I yield back.